There's so many ways for you to show up online, profit, and make an impact with your business. That's what the Heart-Centered Business Success Show is all about. Inspiring you with stories of generous women and equipping you with real strategies to help your business succeed, because I know you've got a powerful gift to share. Thanks for tuning into the show. Okay, thank you, Emily, so much for being here. I will let you introduce yourself, but I just want to say first that Emily is such an awesome soul, and I just have had the honor to work with her and just be a friend and just get to know you as a human. And so, Emily, thank you for being here and sharing your heart with my audience and your story today.
Thank you. This is a privilege, Anna.
Yay! So why don't you just start us off by letting us know a little bit about what you do in this online space?
Okay, so I call myself a calling and purpose coach, which people are like, what the heck is that? So what I basically comes down to is helping you be confident in who you are. So whether that's finding your identity or just helping you show up confidently as you, figuring out what your strengths are, what makes you shine and sparkle, and then putting all that together into a strategy to step up into your message, in your calling, in your dream, whatever it is that you have to share with the world, so that you can make that impact that you want.
I love that. Beautifully said. So let's dive in and tell us where you got your first client, and maybe as a part of that story, like how all of this started for you.
Well, it started, I suppose we have a bunch of story where, how far do you want me to go? But it started when I discovered this thing called, actually it started before I discovered life coaching. It started when I decided randomly to take a group of people through, I think it was the On Purpose Person book, which is kind of old now, by Kevin McCarthy. And I loved this whole figuring out your purpose thing. And I just thought everybody else did too. And so I took this group of people through and quickly realized that some people loved it and they did all the homework I gave them. And other people were like, who cares? And I'm like, I do not relate to you at all. I'm like, why would you not want to know your purpose? And that makes you so confident. It gives you purpose. It gives you a reason to wake up in life. It gives meaning to everything that you do.
Yeah. And
so that was kind of my wake up call. Shortly after that, I discovered a book on leadership coaching and was given the privilege for training. And when I found it, I was like, what? I was born for this. This is what I was waiting for my whole life. And I just kind of kept going through the courses. I was like, is there another one? Is there another one? And soon I ended up just doing my whole certification in it. And I just did it because I loved it. It actually changed my philosophy. It made me a healthier person. It gave me a strategy to help people in a way that was me. And yeah, it became who I was, not just something I did. So it integrated into my day job, and I would do it on the side. And it was probably after 6 years that I'm like, oh, people like me that are just normal and not this big, some people just seem so out there and famous. I realized people like me are doing this too, and they're making a business of it. Maybe I can do that too. Mm-hmm. So it was, so I eventually just started to get more serious, making it intentional business, not just waiting for things to fall into my lap, but actually, and that pushed me to be confident. That started changing who I am too.
So good. Okay, I have 70 follow-up questions, but at least one, right? So first of all, I want to say that's totally true. You are that person that, one of the words I think describes you most is intentional. You are so mindful and intentional in your life and business, and I think you totally bring that to your coaching too. But when you were talking about that program that you took and the certification, it sounded so juicy, how that literally transformed the way that you think about your life. What would you, if you had to sum it up in one sentence, if people are wondering, like, what is it? Like, what was that change? Even though it took like years to happen, how would you sum it up in one sentence, the philosophical transformation?
Yeah. Well, that was only over a few months that I figured
Oh, okay.
that mindset changed, because when I was in my early 20s, I was rescuer. I was probably codependent a little bit, though I didn't realize that till afterwards. And so I didn't really face that stuff until after in my first marriage, my husband left me, and that triggered a bunch of things that realized I don't want to be this person. And from what I know of stats, you just keep repeating your same mistakes over and over. And I don't want to do that. I was 26 when, I was separated and divorced, and it was kind of like my whole life had fallen apart. So it was my wake up call where I did some hard work to say, okay, I'm attracting unhealthy people. I have this huge heart to serve, to help. I don't want to be in the limelight. I don't want to, I just want to help people, and I want to make a difference. And so when um, when I, so I'd already done that healthy shift. Coaching gave me the tool, one of the most profound principles, I guess, behind it, because it was coaching with a Christian perspective. And so it was on my worldview based on my values. And that was, the principle was that God created everybody else with their own life to manage. It's like a duh statement, but
not
the way I know,
not.
but the way that it was, written in the book, and it was described in the setting, it like slammed me in the face, realizing, oh, I'm believing that someone doesn't have what it takes to manage their own life. So I feel like I have to do it for them because they aren't doing it well enough. I'm like, who the heck am I to do that? So that was my wake up call to realize, and it took a huge burden off. So coaching gave me the tool to say, oh, they're responsible to own it. Yeah. And I get to believe in that, because I know when people believed in me and I didn't think I was good enough to manage my own life, that's what helped me rise up to the top. So that whole concept of realizing, for me, it was God believed in me, and that's what called me out of my funk, and realizing, I was kind of in that self-pity space where, I was like, oh, they have that personality, so, I'm not cut out for that. Or they have those connections and they know those people. So, I don't have that, so I wouldn't be able to do anything great or make a difference. And I was locked in that space. And what got me out of it was just this soft inner stillness, that voice that says, well, I believe in you, so what are you waiting for?
Wow.
And I was like,
I got chills when you said that.
I know. Well, it was another kind of slam in the face moment I was like, wait a minute, I'm okay with everybody else being my excuse for not moving forward, and I'm okay with God, maybe not creating me that way, but I'm not okay if I'm the only one holding myself back, because that's just not acceptable. So, I received that. That was my wake up call to step out and own it, and get uncomfortable and get scary and just step out. And then other people did, coaches did that for me when I just timidly stepped into this space. And because they believed in me, that was kind of like, oh, wait, me? Okay, well, yeah, I can do that. And so then I'm like, well, how powerful that is that to offer somebody else?
Yeah.
It's not fancy tricks. It's not, it's a few questions and giving someone the space to be understood and step out in a safe place, in a safe way. And then they get to own their life from there. So that in itself was life-changing enough for me, because it was empowering.
So powerful. So powerful. And I think so many people watching can probably resonate with that, right? Like that hashtag heart-centered problem, that like feeling the responsibility or weight for others, right? Because we care about others and we
Mm-hmm.
love others and we like serving others,
Mm-hmm.
but you're right. Like it does cross the line, right? Where we're starting to take responsibility for other people's behavior or actions, which actually, like you said, holds them back, right? Which is
Yep.
actually enabling and not like, we're not giving them the
Yeah.
space and the belief that you totally have got this on your own.
Yeah. And it was affecting my identity too, because I felt like I had to conform to meet their expectation, right? It all blends into each other. So suddenly I had to stand out and say, okay, who am I and who do I want to be?
Wow.
And purpose, my whole philosophy behind purpose is that it starts with who you are. It's not what you do. And so
Wow.
if you start with who you are and own that and be comfortable in that, and then uncomfortable in that, then what you do flows out of that, and it's a much easier path.
That's amazing. Now that's step one. And I think you have like a 7-step framework, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it probably didn't start that way, right? Or did it? Like, did you have 7 steps right from the beginning?
Yeah. So after I decided I was going to move into business coaching, and I kept thinking, okay, what do I have to offer that stands out? I don't want to just copy everybody else, and I need something that stands out. And I just started reading these books, about how to define what your message is, because I just felt like, well, everybody else does it so well. Why do I need to invent something else or say something differently? But then I think I read it by Carrie Overbrenner. We just talked about, we'll look through a path of what you've done and break it down into steps and do that. And I'm like, well, what have I done? Again, falling into that, who am I? What do I have to say? Everybody else knows something better. And then I kept thinking, I stayed in this space of indecision, this crossroads of wanting more, knowing it was meant for more and not knowing if I could. And I just felt like I had just camped out at this crossroads for so long. And I'm like, how did I get out of there? And so that's when I dug deep, and I just did some brainstorming and wrote a whole bunch of things out to say, what were all my steps? What were all the components from me getting here to here? And that's where I shuffled them all around and read, okay, these are them. And maybe they happen in order for people, or maybe they're just all the check marks along the path. It's not a scientific study, but they were the 7 steps of, this is what it takes. So when I'm in indecision, when I'm over analyzing and paralyzing, because I'm a processor, one of my strengths is in introspection, and I could get stuck there. So I'm like, what is my path to get me out of introspection when I don't know what I don't know, or when I don't know where it is I'm going, but I know I've got to get moving in order to find it. So how do I get out of my head to do that? So that was the step that helped me, and then gave me just a way to look and listen for when my clients are saying something, and then I could listen. Oh, they're describing this spot. It doesn't sound like they know very much about that step. And that maybe that's the missing, maybe that's the gap between this step and that step. And so it gave me a way to just pinpoint, where are you in your journey from inaction and indecision to confidence and courage and clarity to take your next step. Maybe not your whole path, but your whole step. So it started with who I am, being confident, who I am, how I'm wired, whose I am, and the character that I wanted to be in my story. So if I'm living the story that I want to tell somebody, if I'm going to, tell somebody my story when I'm 80 years old, how do I want to describe who I was in that story? That's where it starts, because transformation happens, from the beginning of the story to the end. You're usually not the same character. So it starts with acknowledging who you are now, so that you know who you want to be and how you'll get there.
I love how
did that answer your question?
Yeah, totally. And I love how practically you've mapped it out. And I think this is powerful, because I do think usually in our lives there is this point of like, there's a major time when we are stuck in indecision and we get unstuck. But like you said, also in our life, we have times of indecision all the time, right? And so how beautiful it is that even in the many times of feeling stuck or to cross roads, there's like a map.
Yep. Yeah.
So from that point, like how did you in this business get connected with your first client?
Yeah. So with the certification program, once you got to that level, you had to recruit 3 clients to do 5 sessions. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
You're like, what?
What? Like I've got to stop learning and actually do this. So of course you have peer coaching, right? So I love that because you're just kind of connecting in your friendship and you get to know each other and you're on the same journey. So there's lots of grace. But all of a sudden I had to like get my first clients.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about it, and I had friends where as soon as I mentioned I need, clients, they're like, yes, pick me. I don't know what you're doing, but that sounds like what I need. So I was like, okay. And so I coached them through that. And then the third one, I was like, well, it's got to be different coaching somebody you don't know than someone you know. And I'd rather get practice doing that too. And so one of my mentors or coach trainers that had connected me into the program, you found a bracelet. Hey, this is my daughter here.
I love it.
I asked him and he was very kind and reached out, and one of his connections said, okay, I'll be coached. So it was a referral. Someone, who knew what I had to offer, knew me and knew that person was able to connect us to say, this is what you need. And then both of us trusted him enough to kind of meet on that call and have 5 sessions together. And she still says, like 6 years later, I had an email from her a couple months ago saying, just so you know, that really, this is where I'm at now, that made an impact.
Wow.
So that's really cool that it just happens beyond the aha moment of that session, that it still is defining later. So yeah, those are my first clients through relationship and referrals. Yeah.
Which is huge, and I feel like so often overlooked, right? Like I've got to find some like fancy way, but it's like I love that those first people came through people that already knew and trusted you vicariously through a relationship.
Yep. So, to a second degree or a first, right? Like even the people that, my referral, my third client, she didn't know me at all, but she trusted the person who trusted me. And so that was important. Yeah.
So important. So we talked about this a little bit, but what would you say is your biggest #heart-centered problem that you've had to overcome, and what truth do you overcome it with?
I think it's just that concept of when you actually unleash your dream and the ideas start flowing, and then you realize how much work it is to implement it and all the tiny pieces, and then the time you have in the day, and then you realize you have to practice what you preach. So you have to have balance with all the rest of the things that are important to you.
I have to go take a shower because I'm telling you.
Exactly. There's this kind of raw accountability, or living those moments to know, okay, this is either going to be a bad example for someone that I'm going to have to share one day, or it can be a good one. So
yes.
Who do I want to be in this situation? So it's the finding the time, not having the skills fast enough to do what I want to do, trying to learn, when do I do it myself? When am I ready to outsource something? So just that hard slugging of figuring out what you don't know and how to implement it and how this works for me without copying somebody else.
Totally.
And the truth that I always lean back to, it's actually one of the core verses that was foundational in my coaching training. And I think it's from 2 Peter, where it's based on the verse that God has given us, or the power. He's given us everything we need for life and godliness. And so I translate that. 1 second. Mommy's almost done talking. Okay. Yeah, almost done. All right. So I translate that verse in my context to realize, no, God's given me everything that I need. So what do I have that I can need? Instead of focusing on what I don't have the skill, I don't have the time, I don't have the connections, it's turning that back to say, no, what has he given me? What do I have that I can use in this situation? Because that's the message I want to pass on to someone else. Start with where you are and with what you have. That's what everybody started out with.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just pulls me back in to appreciate what I do have and be responsible and grateful for it. So
beautiful.
that's it.
And if someone has been listening and they're like, oh my gosh, I need my hands on these 7 steps, or like Emily is one of the most delightful humans ever, in which if they are thinking that, they are right, how do they get in touch with you? How do they get a hold of your 7 steps?
Yeah, you can reach that at emilygrabatin.ca/dare. So it's EMILYGRABATIN.ca/dare. And you can get that. It's all outlined. Nice checklist for you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I feel like I learned new nuggets about you. I got chills. I teared up. Like, powerful. Thank you for sharing your heart. And I feel like, at least for me, especially when I was starting out, hearing other people's stories and journeys was so key to like hanging in there, especially from like heart-centered women, right? That had similar values to me. And so thank you for sharing.
Thank you for inviting me, Anna. It was a pleasure.